Hey, thanks so much for having me.
It is our pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. When it comes to Sunny HQ, can you give us a background? What was your thought process, and how did the company became what we are seeing today?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the company was really born from another company. And so the origin story is I ran a marketing branding agency for about 10 years and really got burned out. The nutshell is the company was doing really well, but it was out of alignment with what now what I knew that I really wanted. And, we had a huge staff of about 25 at the time. We had tons of great clients, all the awards, doing a few million a year. And yet it was just out of alignment well, I was working 70 hours a week. And so away from my family and didn't really understand how to, do anything differently. So when, we can go into that as deep as you want, but that company, I really ended up burning that to the ground. Unfortunately, I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't get the right help and it failed because of that. But it started really with this question of why am I doing this? So even, it can happen. You don't have to have these, huge pressures for things to happen, right? What I learned is even in light of everything going as on paper, the perfect way. The reality is because it was out of alignment with what I wanted in my soul, it was going to fail. So, but out of that was born this new company. And really I took the good parts. So this great idea of human first, meaning customer service first. It's really important that we get to know our customers and that aspect and overlaid that into a pure technology business. So what do? We're hosting, managing, maintaining WordPress websites at a really high level. So it's very different than anything in the marketplace in that most hosting facilities are just that. It's like having a storage facility for your stuff. You put it there, but you have to take care of it 100%. We're the opposite of that. So we're managing, all the updates, all the tech, basically everything that's technology based around the website, we take care of. You focus on your business and the content. We even help update the content, but in essence, you run your business, we run everything technology. But, companies do that. Companies do hosting, but an important gap that I filled was essentially taking everything I'd learned in this agency, high end customer service, and applying that to this hosting play, right? So we're very different in that if you asked our customers today what they liked about us, they're like, they know Dylan, they know Leo, they know John, they know, on and on and on. Because we get to know them, we get to know their website, we take care of it just like it's our own.
Very interesting story, Dylan. And when you talk about WordPress hosting and website building, what exactly are you offering to your clients apart from hosting? Are you also helping them storyboard and create their website from scratch? And there are so many pre-built out of the box website WordPress templates. How does a company like Sunny HQ come into the play?
Yeah, so our main focus is very simply after the website's built. So I'll kind of circle back around to that. But when I looked at the importance of this new company and what we would do, we wanted to really have a narrow focus. We wanted to be one thing and be really, really great at it. And what I found is there's a lot of places that can build you websites. We can build a website, right? But the reality is what I wanted to do is have our people be really focused on the support side. So we're hosting the website on an enterprise grade platform. And what that means is it doesn't matter to us if you're a small yoga studio or a little mom and pop. It doesn't matter if you get 10 visits a month versus millions of visits a month. It's important to us that the website runs and it's really fast. And I learned early on that if we throw a lot of hardware at it and if we build this kind of high end kind of platform, that less issues happen. It's kind of interesting. If the website runs faster, then little issues that might happen with a plugin don't become issues because they kind of skip over each other. But aside from that, we're managing all the updates, all the security, malware, backups, literally everything that you would typically need to do. We're managing all of that about the website. And then on top of that, we're helping our customers with full support. That comes in all fashions, right? We have some customers that don't want to get into their websites at all. In that case, we're happy to update their content. We're going through and helping them with product information. We're not creating the content. We will give some suggestions. We'll say, look, and when it comes to search engine optimization or now kind of AI generative engine optimization, we'll help point them in the right direction. And we've got some other partners that do that, but we wanted our focus to be very simply at the end of the day, you don't have any questions. The website is running, it's running optimally. We do some development work, but I'm really careful to say that because we only do that for our existing clients. It's really important to us, like I said, that the idea is this, right? If you have a company and you have people focused on web development, then when the support comes along, they're distracted and no one wants to really do support. Well, our entire team wants to do the work that no one else wants to do, right? Is all the support work. And we love it.
That's very interesting. And Dylan, when you mention about WordPress plugins, there are so many third-party resources and developers building out of the blocks plugins that you can download for your WordPress website. How does your company come into play when the WordPress updates happen? How does these plugins actually get into sync so that the user doesn't faces any disruption?
Yeah, so and I learned this from years of really trial and error. What we find is we manage all the plugin updates, so that's bar none. We handle all the plugin updates, and we also handle if our customers are interested in some functionality, we'll help them choose the right plugin. But when it comes to the updates, what I found is as everybody knows who's in their WordPress website, you log in and you see that little updates, and usually there's a little red thing and it says, you need 10 updates or 15 updates. First of all, that's okay. You're always going to need updates. And we're managing, hundreds of websites right now. So all of them always need updates. What we found is being on the bleeding edge is not good. You want to wait a little bit. Unfortunately, sometimes developers release plugins a little bit ahead of we see this in the entire software industry, right? They release it a little bit ahead of time. And to be fair, with thousands of plugins, and for instance, on our platform, I know we don't have two websites with the exact same plugin sets. We have websites that have some of the same plugins, but the idea is there's almost an infinite amount of variations that are possible. And so there's no way each plugin developer can know every issue that might come up. And so what we do is we'll wait, especially around, if there's a major version change from like a 2.0 to a 3, we'll wait until we get a 2.1 or a 2.05, or basically we'll give it some time unless there's a security issue. Now, security issues we handle immediately. So we always know the site's secure, but it's not really necessary that websites are always on the bleeding edge of being updated. And actually what I found after managing sites on my own for a year when I was perfecting this is that by updating them always to the brand new thing, the reality is you open the door to much more support issues. You open the door to plugin conflicts. That creates website issues and just basically creates more headache for everybody involved. We think about this a lot, of course, because our business is WordPress. WordPress, I don't know the updated stat, but I think today runs around 46% of the internet. So it's like 100 million websites, unbelievable amount. I don't see that changing for some time. I think that, definitely with e-commerce, you've got things like Shopify, and Shopify is a fantastic system. The key advantage with WordPress that we find with our customer base is the flexibility that you've got. So we have some very small e-commerce websites. We actually have a website that hosts about 4 million products and does thousands of orders per day. So WordPress can handle huge amounts of data, but the key that we find is that you get some flexibility inside the WordPress environment on the design side, as well as on the functionality side, that it's very difficult, at least for the price, right? The cool thing is you can design a WordPress website because our available development skill set is so huge. We can have a very custom design, so you're not limited on anything there, a very robust system, and a lot of functionality. So this is functionalities to CRMs and ERPs and tax systems, external tax systems and external shipping systems. Those end up being kind of problematic in my experience with some of these other more rigid systems until you graduate to like very large e-commerce websites. But when you're coming to the more plug and play, it's hard to beat the feature functionality set that you get within the WordPress environment.
Absolutely. I agree to it. It is very easy to set up and build your website and business on WordPress websites. Lynn, you have been a two-time founder. What has been your biggest lesson so far, apart from the one that you mentioned earlier? What changes are you building and doing in your current company?
Yeah, I think that I mean the biggest change and the biggest thing I learned is the burnout lesson, right? I mean it's essentially recognizing that our personal and professional lives are really one thing, right? And separating those two things just doesn't work. It's not sustainable. And so the way that we run the company now, not just for me, but for our entire staff, is making sure that we're integrating the people and their ability to have family time. We look to, and the reason why we call ourselves human first, right? We are a technology company. We use a lot of technology systems to make our jobs easier so that we can live a more fulfilling life, but not to take the place of that touch between us and our customers. So the advantage is, I'd say, our people that have an 8 hour day, or in some cases a 10 hour day for overlap, physically probably only work about half of that time. And that's important to us, that they've got kind of that freedom because it makes them fresh. It gives them a really solid approach to how they work with our customers.
It's absolutely because you need to have your customer in the mind whenever you're doing any kind of a business, right? So,
Yeah,
Dylan,
100%.
what is your vision? Where are you looking at? Where are you heading?
I think we're looking at a lot of options right now with helping customers with AI. Search engine optimization has always been problematic, just in the amount of anybody that has gone down that road. The reality is, and it's an expensive thing to do well. We're seeing some differences with on both what it takes to help to optimize sites for AI, but two, the payback is pretty instantaneous. For instance, we're seeing changes on our own website. So basically, us optimizing content on our own website, we're seeing results within a week. We're actually seeing physical purchases come from leads that have been generated directly from ChatGPT and Gemini, which is really incredible. And so we're looking at helping customers doing that. We're looking this year or next year actually at we've kind of had a small business product and helping small businesses get online, and I think we're trying to do that more. And we also have a nonprofit program that we're working heavily on.
Very interesting. And Dylan, what would be your advice to the new age startup founders and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I don't know. It's the same old adage, right? Don't be afraid to fail. I am extremely comfortable in the entrepreneurial mindset of growing business, but you've got to be comfortable with failure. It's important, fail forward, right? I think it's important that you look at your ability to understand what happened and your ability to pivot. So, even now when we say we're focused 100% on WordPress, keep in mind, like, we understand at some point that could change. So we're constantly looking for what happens when, what do we need to see in order for us to start to pivot more. And it's important that all business owners look at that. Continue asking your customer what they want from you. I think that's another really important one. I started the company literally with a set of things that filled a gap that I learned directly from the customers that I dealt with. I simply asked them, "What do you want?" This is what we want, and we gave that to them. It's very simple.
But that's actually very interesting because many founders actually don't look and take feedback from their customers and actually work on their existing product, right? So that is a big gap between getting the feedback and implementing those feedbacks.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. One final question to you, Dylan, and I ask this to all my guests. What is the one piece of advice that you got that changed your perspective professionally and personally?
Oh, I mean, well, I think for the business, I had this mentor that really set me on the right path. This is when I was running the agency. And keep in mind the mindset there, and this is what I think a lot of business owners fall into this. There was always something to do in this agency, and so things looked like they were going great. What I didn't realize is the success of this company was 100% dependent on me and my time. Um, which sounds great if you want to feel really important, but it's not great if you want to live a life. And, I remember at one point, his name was Mark. Mark said, "Dylan, two things. You've got to find systems of things that you can build within your company so that you can offer some service that brings you recurring revenue. And I think every business has an opportunity for that. And then the other is systematize. So rigorous systemization of all of your standard operating procedures, all your protocols and processes is basically developing this guide of saying, even if, let's say, there's no technology involved, right? Even if let's say you have a staff of 20 people, the important thing there is to understand what it is you do as a company and document that, because that becomes the real value of the company and helps you break out of between the reoccurring revenue and essentially building a map of what it takes to run the company. You essentially develop the intellectual property of what it is and the real value behind that company. Yeah, totally.
Thank you so much, Dylan, to join our channel today. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.